Hello, good morning, and welcome. Thank you all for joining. Let me know in the chat where you're joining from, and we will see where everybody is at on the map. Hopefully we have a fun show in store today. Happy to answer questions about all things live streaming and the ATEM Mini and anything else you want to talk about. This is for you, so thank you all for joining. Let me just go ahead and pull up the map and see where people are joining from. Awesome. Looks like a good crowd in the chat already. And I see a few questions. Again, if you do have a question for me, make sure that you mention my full name, Aaron Parecki, in the chat. And that makes it show up at nice and orange on my screen so I can see that there's a question and make sure I don't miss anything. So yeah, welcome. And thanks for joining. I have put things together a little bit better today. So hopefully I'll be a little bit more organized. Had some last minute macro creation this morning to make sure that I have the right buttons to press. My Raspberry Pi is still broken, and it is weird because I thought I had fixed it yesterday when I was testing it out, and now I brought it to the studio and it's not working again. So I don't have my Stream Deck here, but at least I can still run macros from the software control on my computer. And yeah, I'm still at this desk because I'm still in the middle of rebuilding the other desk. So that is why we are here today, and you get a nice little colored light in the back. All right. I hope everybody had a good holiday and getting ready for the new year. And yeah, let's see what we've got in the chat, see what kind of questions are coming in. Oh, I see Jesse says hello from Redlands. I used to go there all the time. I used to visit there a lot for work. I used to work at Esri, and they are based in Redlands, so I was flying back and forth from Portland all of the time. It's been a while since I've been there, though. Been a long time. All right. Let me switch over to... Oh, I just realized I don't have a button to take off the map. Almost got it working. Almost got things working. And there we go. That's the button. All right. Switch over to the chat. Hopefully I sound okay today. I'm trying something new where I'm using a little microphone like this because I'm assuming it's going to do a better job of rejecting all of the noise from this contraption. And hopefully that means that you can hear me okay. All right. Yes, that worked. Hello from Redlands. Hello from Kuala Lumpur. Okay, here's a question from Jesse. Can you explain the audio sounds pretty clean? Great, cool. Can you explain your site-to-site VPN boxes that you mentioned a few videos back? I don't want to get too into that right now because it is complicated and it involves a lot of networking tricks. I will give you the short version, which is that there is a VPN server at home, and then I have a VPN client here, and it goes and connects into that VPN server. It's using WireGuard, but it would work with anything. I just like WireGuard. Those are running on 2 Raspberry Pis. And then the thing that makes it work bidirectionally is that both routers know how to route traffic to each other's networks. And that's something I configured in my router, which is the part that makes it complicated and not actually feasible for everybody. So this is, if you're curious about searching for this, search for configuring static routes. That is what makes it work. And basically that means that when I'm at this location and I try to access an IP address on the other network, my router knows how to route that traffic, whereas normally it would not. Normally it would be like, oh, that's a different network. I don't know how to get to that. It works one direction VPN. The VPN would work in one direction normally, but in order to get the other direction back, you have to have that static route configured. And now it works great, and I love it. It's just like they're both on the same network here. I do want to do a video about that, but it requires a lot of setup and explaining networking concepts. So it'll be a bit of a challenge to make that video for sure. Like the new light position? Thanks, Rick. Yeah, I think the only thing new today really is I've got this. I'm realizing now this is a lot more purple than I wanted it to be. This was supposed to be more rosy, and it is a lot closer to Gerald's purple, which I did not intend. It depends on what screen I'm looking at, so I'm actually kind of curious what it looks like on YouTube. My image is a bit overexposed, says Anonym. Let me know what you all think. I'm looking at my confidence monitor here, and it looks bright, but I don't see any visible clipping on that one. So it might be something in the chain. But let me know if anybody else thinks it's a little bit overexposed, and I can turn it down, but I have to go around the back to get to that camera. Oh, this is a good question from Graham. Do you know if there's a spec for the XML used in the ATEM macros? It'd be nice to be able to create them from scratch in a text editor. I have not seen any documentation on that, which is incredibly frustrating. And it would be nice if there was some documentation. Honestly, the best way I found is just trial and error. You just try to, you use the software control to do the actions. You go through the steps in the software control app, and then you see what XML comes out the other end, and then you can copy and paste it around. So at this point, I have a pretty extensive list of macros I've created at various points, and when I want to go and make a new one, I will either pick from old macros or just create a new one from scratch and then go rearrange things. The thing that I want to make sure I'm rearranging is when the actual cuts happen. And I usually like to add a little bit of a delay before the cut happens. So for example, the macro that starts this show, it does a couple of things. So I'm on the countdown screen where it's actually the video of the numbers playing, and then over that is a downstream key with the graphic for the show. And that is, so that's, two things. And I need to prepare to turn off that key, queue up my camera, fade my camera, and then turn off the sound like 8 seconds later. So actually creating a macro to do that, recording it live in real time, is more trouble than it's worth. So what I do is I do all the actions in the software control, but then I rearrange them in the XML. And that makes it a lot easier to deal with. I can be like, okay, I'm just going to turn on the key now, and then later in the XML, I'll go and just like move it up to the right spot where it's supposed to be. And I don't really feel like I need to be able to create them, like write them out from scratch, because it would also be more debugging if you like made a typo. So I don't actually mind having to go and do the actions and then just rearrange it and sort of put the finishing touches on it after that. But yeah, I haven't actually found any documentation on that at all. How did I make the map with the markers? I think I've talked about it on a couple of streams, but I don't have it publicly available. So the chat, the things that's doing this chat, that is available. You can go download the Chrome extension. I'm pretty sure I linked to it in the description box in this video. And you can use that in your show. And I have a video on my channel about how to go and set that up. So go ahead and you can go read up on that. The map, I need to work on some Google API rate limiting stuff before I can make that public, unfortunately. So that one is some just custom code that I've written. Okay, and I'm skipping ahead on the chat. Some people are saying my shirt is a bit blown out. Exposure is a bit bright. Lighting looks good. Okay, yeah. I'll leave it. I will, however, change my color because I don't want this to look like. Oh, see, that's a Gerald purple. This is much more like Gerald Undun's purple. I was going for like rosy. So let's go more into that. I can't quite get this light to match my wall color, unfortunately, the other wall. Now, you know what? I'm just gonna use my teal. There we go. It's better. That was, yeah. Okay. Now I am not stealing Gerald's set. All right, let me go back up. Where were we? I am just going to go through these questions in order because that's how we do things here. Dean asks, do I prefer the ATEM Mini Pro or the Roland V1 HD? That is an excellent question. I do have to remind myself which one of the Rolands that is because they have too many models and their numbering doesn't make any sense. So, okay, this one, let me get my computer on that screen. Where is my, okay, sorry, one sec. This one I don't have macros for yet. Okay, now I can do that. Now I can switch to that. Can I bring in my upstream key? I can. Great. This one is the Roland V1 HD. I always have to remember which one is which because they have the 2-input small one as well. So this one is, I used to use this one all the time. And it is good. It's a solid device. However, it's super different from the ATEM Mini. And one of the things this does not do is any of the streaming stuff that the Pro has. But if you're just talking about the ATEM Mini itself, this does not do the webcam output. So it's just HDMI out. And because of that, I find it a lot less useful than I might want it to be, unfortunately. So yeah, that is, I haven't actually used it in a long time because of that. And I think I actually sold that one. But the ATEM Mini just ends up being a lot more useful for so many more things, in my opinion. I will say the one thing this does have is it does have 2 HDMI outs. So you can do a preview screen and also your program out over HDMI, whereas the Mini only has 1 HDMI out. So that is a big difference between the two and a reason that you may want to may be limited by the Mini. All right. Did I drop my audio? No. No, audio is fine. What's going on? No audio? Everything's fine. Okay. Here's a good question. Bob asks, what will be the best new tech accessory for streaming video in 2021? It's going to be the new ATEM Mini that they're going to launch that I talked about in my video that they're going to announce tomorrow if everything goes according to plan. No, I'm just kidding. That is still on my wish list, but no trace of any kind of progress on that. I wish they would make it because I do want that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. Where can you discuss? Oh, here's a good question. Can you discuss the studio setup, workflow, and hardware for your video YouTube hacks explained by hackers? It was outstanding. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a great video to record. That was a totally different video than I normally do on this channel, but a lot more in the world of the things that I normally do for work. That's my normal topic of things that I do. But the way we did that was probably not what you would expect. It was, we had a FaceTime call. So Shannon was just using her phone. And we were on FaceTime talking to each other back and forth. But then we both had our normal set and normal camera. So we both had a microphone, both had a real camera, recording ourselves to the camera on an SD card. Ended up being like a 60 gigabyte file or something. And then the audio was recorded. In my case, I recorded it into the camera. She used a separate audio recorder for hers. That's how she normally works. So we just did basically our normal recording process for how we would normally record a video in our own studios. And we had a FaceTime call going between us. We did have to wear headphones because otherwise the audio from the FaceTime call would have bled into the microphones. So I think she had wired headphones and I was using the wireless AirPods, and if you look closely, you'll see that they switch ears throughout the video because by the time we were recording, we'd been talking for so long that the batteries started dying. So I was charging one while using the other, and then I had to swap them out. So that was a bit of a. The unfortunate part about those headphones is the batteries do not last very long. And then, yeah, so we recorded our shows to SD card, and then we shared the files later, synced up the files. Since we had 2 videos we were recording. I sent her my recording of her video. She sent me her recording for my video, and then we both just edited them using our normal editing process. So they were super edited afterwards. The conversation I had with her was like 50 minutes, almost an hour, and I cut it down to the 25 that was the video. And I think our conversation on her channel was closer to the length her video ended up. We didn't talk for as long in that conversation, so she edited, but she still edited it down. And yeah, I was just doing a mix of, cutting between full screen when one of us was talking, or if we were doing a little back and forth, or if I was nodding, I would do the split screen side by side, all done in post, entirely done in post. None of that was produced live. But yeah, thanks for the question. All right. Scrolling, I'm just catching up to see if anybody is talking about my video. Okay, no, everything's fine. Cool. Mark, if you're curious about the chat, I do have a video on this chat setup on my channel, so go take a look at that. I should probably actually link to that in the description of every video at this point. Are you using the ATEM Mini to stream as usual? Quality looks good, but the motion looks a little bit different than normal. Interesting. I wonder if I forgot to... Somehow, my video is set to 60 frames per second because I was experimenting with stuff, and that explains why my bit rate is so high. So you are seeing YouTube at 60 frames a second, and my camera is probably still set to 50th of a second so that light doesn't flicker, and that is probably why you're seeing some artifacts in the motion. And let me just double check my camera because I do want to make sure that that camera's not awkwardly set. So I'm just going to go around back here, and this is set to 50th, yeah. It is also set to autofocus, which is possibly... This is the GH5S, and the GH5S is not known for its autofocus capabilities. And normally I don't use autofocus, but I do have it there today because I don't have my iPad controller connected to it, unfortunately. And yeah, unfortunately, I forgot to change my ATEM back to 30 frames a second, so that is why you're seeing some weirdness, and I can't change it now that we are already streaming. My upload shows 35 to 45, but 5 minutes into the stream, my cache starts filling up, even if I give 3 megabyte stream bitrate. I've been using fine, but about 2 weeks ago, facing this issue. Upload 35 to 45. I'm assuming that's your upload like speed test, and then the cache starts filling up, even if you're at 3 megabit stream bitrate. It's probably an internet connection, probably not a hardware issue, honestly. It's probably just the network connection. Even if speed test shows a certain amount of available bandwidth, it doesn't necessarily mean you can stream to arbitrary places at that bandwidth. Because speed test is, sometimes it even just checks like your connection to a local data center that is running that speed test server. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can get all the way to YouTube's servers at that bit rate. So I'm guessing that's what it is. This is a good question. Do you know a good solution to stream the feed of a DJI drone, the Mavic Air 2, somehow to YouTube? I don't have any drones. I have never owned one. I feel like I'm missing out on this whole world of having fun with drones, and I do want to play around with that. The thing to look for is you need to make sure that the little controller, the phone controller, can provide an HDMI feed out of the video from the drone. And I know I'm pretty sure the Mini can't, which is unfortunate because that's the only one I really want to buy, the tiny one. But I think the bigger ones can. But basically, you'd have to do you have to use the output of the phone, unless the drone itself can stream over RTMP, which I don't think any of them can. But yeah, usually the drone's gonna be streaming its video to your controller, and then that would have a clean HDMI out to something that would go to YouTube. But again, I'm not a drone expert, so probably you should ask that from someone who actually has used these before. But that's what I've been looking for when I've been researching drones and looking at which ones to buy, because I probably would want to make sure that it would be able to stream to YouTube if I did get one. Boris says, how do you monitor the outgoing levels and what levels do you aim for? So at the beginning of the show, I use my headphones to make sure my microphone's working and hear what it sounds like. And I don't wear them during the show because there's the delay, because I have to delay my audio to match the camera, and it's pretty distracting hearing myself on a slight delay. So right after I start the show, I take them off. And then I'm keeping an eye on the multi-view. So I can show you what I'm looking at here. Let me pop that one over there. So what I'm looking at, oh, I lost that camera. Something's wrong with that input. Okay. Oh, there we go. So this is what I'm looking at, and this screen is the main one I'm keeping an eye on. Down there in the audio panel, I can see the audio. So I can see mic 1 is on, and I can see that it's in the yellow pretty solidly and occasionally bouncing into the red, which is basically what I wanted to do. So I usually shoot for something between, what is this, like -10 to -3, and I have a compressor and an expander on here as well, so I know it's not going to end up clipping even if I shout, because it's going to be clamping down pretty well on that. And Christian, this microphone, I actually don't know what this one is. I bought it a long time ago. I don't remember what brand it is even, but this is running into the Hollyland Lark 150, and that's going wirelessly to the ATEM. So previously I was using just the Hollyland capsule or their lav mic, and I didn't want to use a lav mic today because I wanted the mic to be closer to my face to get rid of some of the noise from this thing over here. Paul, thanks. I'm not clever enough to ask questions, but love your videos. Thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you for joining. Patrick asks, on Livestreaming Pros, David is always complaining about audio sync issues. Streaming with the ATEM Mini at 60 frames a second, have you had any issues with audio at 60 frames per second? I haven't. So I'm curious. I haven't actually watched much of David's complaints about the ATEM Mini. I'm curious if he's streaming using the ATEM Mini as a webcam through some other software, because the webcam output of the ATEM Mini, I have seen issues with the audio getting out of sync because it's coming in separately from the video over the webcam output. Whereas like over HDMI, or when the ATEM is doing the encoding itself, it's pushing a combined feed up to YouTube, or it's one HDMI out, and that will be in sync. There's no other option. But over the USB, that will then depend on the computer to make sure they stay in sync. So I'm assuming that at 60 frames a second, it's more likely to cause problems because it's just more data, and it's pumping out more stuff at that speed. So yeah, that is probably what they're seeing. So switching to 30 would solve that, of course, and also using a faster computer would solve that, and also then not using a computer would solve it, which is what I'm doing now. So this is streaming apparently at 60 frames a second, even though I did not intend to do that. I normally do 30 because I don't think you need to see that much motion of me waving my hands around. And this is at 60, but it's being encoded by the ATEM Mini Pro up directly to YouTube. Can you briefly explain how to set up a file and kit to send somebody you would want to join you on your live stream? Yeah, I can do that. Let me see. Oh, no, I can't because my streaming bridge is not here. Although I might be able to reach it over the VPN. The reason I say that is because you need to be able to load up the software control interface or the setup app to export that file. What did I make that IP address? Oh my gosh. Let me see if I have it in a file. Yeah, here we go. 2227. Oops. 222.7. Is this going to work? Yes, it is. Okay. So back to my computer. So what you do is you open up this ATEM setup app, and when your streaming bridge is on the network, the same network that you're on, it'll just pop up in this list, like along with these two ATEMs, because these are the two in this room. I just went and added this IP address, which is the IP at my home. So it's going over the VPN, but it doesn't matter because nothing knows about the VPN because it's all happening through the routers. So anyway, I'm talking to my ATEM streaming bridge now. And what you do is you go in here and you say, I want to stream from the internet. And then, so if anybody wants to start streaming to my streaming bridge, you can, because I just showed my streaming key on the YouTube stream and my IP address. And this is now what you would punch into the ATEM Mini Pro in order to have somebody stream to it. So what you can do then is you go to this external ATEM Mini Pro tab, click that, and then you say save ATEM settings, and you can choose which quality to stream. That is going to export this file, and I'll just call it home streaming bridge test, and save that. Cool. That is now active. We'll see this turn on if anybody starts streaming to it. But that is the file you send. So you don't need the guest to be able to even know what that file does. But what they can do then is go into the ATEM software control, and let me switch over to my other ATEM so I don't mess up my live stream. So this one is not being used right now. See if I can connect. I think my network switch over there, I think that's what's causing the Raspberry Pi to die, is my network switch at the desk is broken. All right, let me just go to my home ATEM. I think it's this one. And come on. Did I get that right? No? I really need to remember my IP addresses better. Is it this one? There we go. Okay. So this one, now what I can do, this is my ATEM at home. So I can go output, stream, load streaming settings, and I go find that file. This is what you do. This is what the guest would do, right? So load that file in, and then under output, there's a home streaming bridge now, which is configured with the streaming key and the IP address, and then you just tell them to hit on air and it'll go. So that's all they have to do to set up their ATEM at the guest side. And at that point, if I hit go, it'll just start streaming to that bridge, which happens to be plugged into itself, so that wouldn't do much right now. Yeah, quick overview. Hopefully that was helpful. Cool. Let me take a look at the chats. Oh, I just missed a super chat. Sorry about that. I missed 2 super chats. I wasn't paying attention to my light. Vincent asks, will you get back to the M5 tally lights? I will. The ones that I built, I'm pretty happy with. I might do an actual tutorial on that particular setup, but it's all written up on, it's all just in the GitHub repo at this point, so you can just go and follow those instructions. But I do have some new devices I'm going to play with. So I'm going to be playing with a new device. I actually have it here. This one, the Core 2, which is a touchscreen device. So it's a little bigger, and it's got it can respond to touches. So you can set up virtual buttons on the screen. So I'm thinking that I'm going to make a sort of a little macro controller for myself with a couple of buttons on it. And I'm going to do that sometime, I believe, next week. I have actually I have a couple of live streams scheduled for the next couple of weeks. So I'm slowly making them public, but I think I'm going to make them all public today so you can sort of see the schedule. So let me talk about that really quick because I do want to make sure that you know where to find me over the next couple of weeks. The next one I'm doing tomorrow is I'm rebuilding my desk finally. So I'm going to finally tear the rest of it down, build a new desk up. And then I have a couple of more coming up, and those are going to be things like using this. And I'm just going to be working on some projects in here. And what I'm doing is I'm marking them on YouTube with different colors and different little symbols here so that you know what to expect when you see the live notification. And I am going to be doing a combination of like this kind of build with me. That's going to be the really long, rambly, not answering questions much. I'm actually trying to get some stuff done, but you can come hang out and it'll be fun. And then these ones, like today, we'll just focus on the Q&A. So yeah, I will be coming back to that project pretty soon. And that'll be a lot of fun. And YouTube Dave says, thanks, and thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. And I just saw another one come in. Devin, thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Do you use a Stream Deck? If so, would love to see your profiles. So I do use a Stream Deck, except for today, because I think I'm having network issues over on the desk, which is not going to matter because I'm going to tear apart the desk and replace the switch anyway. The way that I use the Stream Deck is through Companion, which is a software that runs on a Raspberry Pi or a computer, and it like takes over the Stream Deck. I think they changed it so it doesn't have to take it over anymore, and you could plug it into a computer and still control apps and stuff. But I actually prefer it running on the Raspberry Pi, dedicated, just living on my desk. So the reason that I have it there is because I don't have to worry about whether my computer is like running properly today or if the computer needs to be restarted, whatever. Also, Companion seems to eat up a lot of CPU on my Mac, which I don't really understand because I feel like it shouldn't be doing that much. So instead, I just have it on the Raspberry Pi, and that way the Stream Deck is just always on my desk, always just on, and it's just controlling everything. So the profiles live in Companion, and those are basically buttons that tell the ATEMs to do different things. And those are the like cut to this angle, show the map. Some of them are running macros. Some of them are running commands on multiple ATEMs. Now that I have this thing here, I'm going to be running commands on this as well to reroute inputs into my ATEMs. So yeah, I should do a video about that because once I actually dial it in, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be leaving things mostly set up once I get this moved onto the other desk after I rebuild the desk tomorrow. And at that point, it'll be like settled in, and then I can talk about it as a real thing. So yeah, good idea for video. I should be writing these down. These video ideas so I don't forget about them. And what was the other one? Oh yeah, the network VPN situation. But yeah, thanks for the super chat. Okay, where was I? Wow, there's a lot of questions here. This is great. So sorry I'm way behind on the chat. I am going to try to keep finding questions from earlier on. All right. Am I sweating? I don't think so. No, it's not actually very warm in here at all. I left my heater off. Hi, Zach. Looks terrific. The white panels, yeah. My shelf over there is still torn apart. You can see it's missing shelves because I haven't finished coating those in contact paper. I have no idea what mic this is, but this is connected to the Hollyland Lark 150, and it is using a lot of processing in the ATEM. So I have the compressor and expander like I normally do, and that means that when I'm not talking, the background noise gets cut out. You probably do hear a bit of a noise and a hiss while I am talking, because then it's letting the sound through, and it still is picking up this thing because it is pretty noisy. And at least when I'm not talking, you're not hearing the fans. I am going to be replacing the fans in this thing, so it should get a lot quieter soon. All right. Lynn says, I just tested out the chat last night for my wife's channel. So awesome. Thanks. I'm so glad it's working for you. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, and I'm glad finally did the tutorial proper tutorial about setting it up. And I guess I suppose it's a little bit out of date now because there's a few new options that I added to it last week. So you can actually go and change the color of the thing that appears around people's names. So where is it? This. I've now chosen that color for this show, and you can change it to whatever you want. You can change the text color as well. If you don't want a dark background, you could do a light background and black or gray text if you wanted to. So totally customizable now. Use the color wheel and choose the opposite color on the wheel from the color of your shirt. I think that's what I ended up doing, just sort of by eye. I'm also trying to keep a little bit of a color scheme going on in here in this channel. I've got my teal-ish, which is on that wall, and then my coral, which is on those two walls. And try to keep things a little bit themed in here. That means I'm only at the part where I change my background color. That's where I'm at in the chat. I'm sorry. A lot of good questions today. Patrick asks, can you use a Stream Deck to change a scene in Ecamm or OBS and change the camera input on the ATEM Mini with one button? So if you're using a Stream Deck on the computer that has Ecamm or OBS, then one button can control OBS, and a button can do more than one action. So probably is the answer. It depends on how things are wired up. So mine, I don't think would work that way because I don't think Ecamm or OBS support remote network control. I could be wrong on that. OBS probably does, actually. I don't think Ecamm does. So I couldn't do it because my companion is running on, or my Stream Deck is plugged into a different thing that is running Ecamm. If you're plugging in the Stream Deck into the computer that is running Ecamm, then as long as the Stream Deck can control it and you can still get a companion button, you should be able to do it. It's, yeah, I haven't actually used the Stream Deck, like Elgato's software, because I just only got it for companion. So I've only really set it up with companion, and now that I'm saying this out loud, I don't actually know what you have to do in order to make the Stream Deck work with both Companion and another piece of software. So the way I've been doing this is, when I want one button to do more than one thing, they all have to be controllable from the Companion software. And in Companion, you can have it do multiple actions to multiple devices. So I can run one command on one ATEM, one command on the other ATEM. I'm going to make it switch inputs on my matrix over here as well, or like start the video playing on the Hyperdeck. So that's all from Companion itself. If Companion can control OBS, which I would not be surprised if it can, then you could definitely do that. Not sure about Ecamm though. All right, I'm gonna skip ahead, or I'm gonna skip some of the questions that I don't really have a good answer to. Sorry. So if you don't see an answer to an earlier question, I apologize. But I do want to make sure I eventually catch back up to the chat. Arthur asks, would it be possible for Blackmagic to make the fourth HDMI port also HDMI out by firmware, or is it a hardware decision? That would be a hardware thing. I don't think that, unless they planned ahead for it, there wouldn't be a way for them to do it. The way that the ATEM is built, it's not something terribly reprogrammable other than the firmware, and it's a fine line of what you can do in that. But generally, the ports are things that have hardware components inside that are not changeable. And that's very different from like computer-based or Android-based devices that are a lot more reprogrammable because the hardware is a lot more part of the software, if that makes sense. A while ago, you mentioned a simple player that can only loop the video from an SD card was around $20 on Amazon. Yes, it is. It's called the Mica Spec, and let me grab a link to that. So while I grab this link, if you ever are curious about things I've linked to or mentioned in other videos, I made this website. aaronpk.tv/products. And if you visit that, you can then search through my links. So it's all the affiliate links that I have included in videos. They're all available there. So if I just search for Mica, which is spelled with 2 C's, I should find that, sure enough. And here it is, Mica Spec HDMI player. And I will show that one on the screen as well. Yeah, this thing is cool. You can configure it to autoplay when anything is on that's on the SD card. So you just pop in an SD card. When it powers on, it just starts playing, and it can play on a loop. I love that thing. It is super cheap, not fancy. I would not call it a high-quality device, but it does its job, and that's all I need it to do. Oh, Yonzo asks, what's the best way to send a 60 gig video file like this? Yeah, that's a good question. So that's not small, and I don't pay for Dropbox, and I was not willing to pay for Dropbox. I don't have that much space in my Google account. So I ended up using a open source app called SyncThing, and it is kind of like a self-hosted Dropbox. It's meant for syncing a folder to one or more other computers. It's really cool. It's not as user-friendly as Dropbox, but it's also not that bad. And basically what you can do is you don't even need like a server to run it on. You just run it on your laptop, and then you can create I don't know what they call it. I forget what they call it, but you create like a shared folder, and it has like a long key that you can give to somebody. They can plug it into their own copy of the software, and then they'll just sort of find each other and start syncing a folder. So we made a shared folder and both dropped our videos in it and then waited for it to sync up. Now, if you do have a server to run it on, like a Raspberry Pi at home with a giant hard drive attached, or a NAS that you can run apps on, like a Synology, you can also run that software on that server, and then it's like an always-on. Then it's like Dropbox, where you can just drop files in there, and it'll be available to anything. Otherwise, if it's just computer to computer, you have to have both computers online in order for them to be syncing up. But it worked out really well, and that's what I use for most of my shared folders between this computer and other computers as well, and it's backed up to my server that way. Ro, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Will the stream bridge allow me to record to an ATEM Pro, use multi-view, and use as a webcam? Would connection add latency or disruptions to the connection? So, recording on the... Okay, I think you might be trying to do too many things here. So, the webcam eats up the USB. The multi-view takes up the HDMI. And then the streaming bridge... Actually, if you went from the streaming bridge to another HDMI recorder, then you could record that feed. And the latency wouldn't matter because it's just a recording. So if you don't need to also stream it, then you could stream from the ATEM to the streaming bridge and then capture that in some other HDMI recorder, either another ATEM Mini Pro or any other HDMI recorder. But yeah, that is, unfortunately, this is why I made that wish list video of what I want in the next version of the ATEM, is because you always want, there's always like one more thing you want to add. Like when I'm doing workshops over Zoom, my USB connection is going into the computer, and then I can't also record the workshop unless I use the HDMI to record into like my Hyperdeck or something, but then I can't use multi-view. So it's always just like one more thing that I can't do. So hopefully they will add some more inputs and outputs on the next ATEM. We will see. And thank you for the super chat as well. Can I sync 3 web USB cameras with the ATEM Mini DSLR with OBS? And if I manage to sync them, does the port I put them affect the syncing I made? I'm not quite sure I understand the question here. So if you're using DSLRs into the ATEM, that's over the HDMI. So they're not web USB cameras. Yeah, I'm not sure. Can you re-ask the question? Can you clarify? Not quite sure I understand this. The ATEM only makes one video feed available to OBS. So if that's what you mean, you're not going to get like all 3 cameras appearing in OBS if you have the ATEM Mini connected. All right, let me scroll back up. So many good questions today. Thank you. So there we go. Nicholas asks, just received my ATEM Mini Pro. Awesome, that's exciting. What are your recommendations as a starting point for lower thirds and picture-in-picture? Excellent question. So I have a video I did a long time ago. Not that long ago. It feels like ages ago, I guess. It's the one called Graphics for the ATEM Mini. And that talks about 3 different ways to bring in graphics and do lower thirds. So let me drop a link to that. I'll drop a link to that in the chat. That's a good place to start for lower thirds, I would say. And I know, I'm pretty sure Photo Joseph has some videos on this too. The nice thing about the ATEM Mini is that it's really just a smaller, cheaper version of an ATEM. And the ATEMs have been around for a long time, and most of the stuff is the same in them. So you can actually find tutorials on just generally using lower thirds in any ATEM, and they will probably work for the ATEM Mini as well, with a couple of exceptions. Picture-in-picture, I know I've done demos of that on the streams here, but good luck finding those. And I can't think off the top of my head of a good intro to picture-in-picture, but I'm going to add that to my list of video ideas. Speaking of video ideas, I've been actually thinking about putting together a more cohesive set of videos around getting started with the ATEM Mini and the Pro and the ISO, and actually going through the features more methodically and also then publishing it as an actual course on some sort of course platform. So let me know if you'd be interested in that, because there's definitely a lot to it, and it's kind of overwhelming to get started, and it's definitely helpful to have somebody to sort of walk you through it and lay things out. But let me know if you'd be interested in a course on the ATEM Mini. All right. Oh, this is good. Some DJI drones have features for YouTube upload. Inspire 2. That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, I haven't really played around with drones at all, so that is great. Some of them have that built in. It's great to see your new setup with the SDI routing, similar to what I want to build in the mobile setup. We'll keep you posted on that. Awesome. Yeah, I would love to see a mobile version of this. I do not consider this thing mobile right now. It is for this studio. Oh yeah, we were just sort of talking about this. Do you have any recommendations for how to record from ATEM Pro and use as a webcam for Zoom? So you basically have two options. If you lose your multi-view, you can record from the HDMI into something else, either like a Hyperdeck like this, or a any other HDMI recorder. It doesn't really matter. That, however, is going to add that cost. The other option is that you can actually record in your computer and like while Zoom is running. So you can use OBS, you can use QuickTime. There's a trick where Zoom sometimes fights for the camera, but you can have the camera, the webcam, the ATEM webcam, be used by multiple programs if you do it right. So you can actually have OBS recording from the ATEM onto your hard drive and have Zoom be using it as a webcam. And that might be a good option. However, I'm always nervous about making my computer do tasks for an extended period of time, like recording, for example. So I would probably go with just lose the HDMI out, or the multi-view out, and use the HDMI for recording. Oh, the other way to do it, which I have done several times now, I don't know why I totally forgot about that, is if I'm using my ATEM in Zoom to run a workshop, and I want my multi-view just to be able to see my audio levels and whatever, I've actually streamed from the Pro to a private YouTube video and then let YouTube be the recording. And that actually has been working out great. It doesn't even have to be YouTube. You could be using anything, right? You could stream to a Raspberry Pi's recording, but YouTube is just easiest. So you go into YouTube, you make a private stream, and then you just set the ATEM to stream to that private stream, and that becomes your recording of what you did in Zoom. And I've done that several times now too. So yeah, that's the other way to do it. Cool. Thanks for the question. ATEM Mini with SDI inputs, NDI inputs. Your thoughts? SDI, I don't think they're going to go full SDI because that is what the higher end models are for. The ATEM Mini, really the market for that is people who are using HDMI sources. So your computer, your DSLR cameras and things like that, gaming consoles. I would like to see them add one SDI, possibly two, just so that you have the option of bringing in some more pro gear into that. I don't think we would see a full SDI version, because at that point, you should probably just get the larger model at that point. As far as NDI goes, I don't think we're ever going to see NDI in Blackmagic products, because they would have to be paying a licensing fee to use NDI, and the licensing fee goes to their competitor. So I think that is very unlikely that we would ever see that. It's also a completely different way of working with videos that does not really match well with the way that they build their hardware. So not likely, I don't think. Pickle Jar asks, what Blackmagic Hyperdeck menu setting for recording codec do you like? How would you handle getting an MP4 into the Hyperdeck with that setting? So I usually just use the ProRes format. I think just the regular ProRes, and I make sure to output from like Media Encoder or Resolve or whatever in that exact format. and load it onto the SD card. So that's how the countdown works. For example, the countdown was a graphic I made in Adobe, God, what's the graphics one? After Effects. And I exported from After Effects to a ProRes. I think actually that one had transparency. So it was 4444 and it has the alpha channel that way. I've been having good luck with that. I also actually have a another animation on here. Let me load this one up because this one's a lot of fun. I was experimenting with particle effects in After Effects, and I made some snow. So if I go and let's see, if I go and yeah, load up my Hyperdeck into here, then I should be able to go into use my downstream key. Let me show you. Oh, I can't show you what I'm doing because my computer, I don't have enough inputs anymore. Sorry. So I'm going into my downstream key and I'm setting the fill to one of the Hyperdeck outputs, the key to the other Hyperdeck, and then pre-multiply. And now if I turn that on, I should be able to run some snow. Now it's snowing in here. So this is a particle generator that I made in After Effects, and it's just spewing little white blobs over the screen. And then I exported that as a ProRes 4444. So it's got the transparency channel, which then I have two outputs going from the Hyperdeck into the ATEM Mini, and you can pick one fill and one key, and it will then do the transparency, and it is mostly working. I think something is a little bit, I think I need to go into my After Effects. Like you can see when they go over my shirt, you can see a little bit of black around it. And I think it's because I didn't set the background, like, I don't know, something in the After Effects rendering was a little bit wrong, so that the transparency isn't working quite the way it should. If I turn off pre-multiplied key, though, they get worse. So let me pause it with. So if you look, here's with the pre-multiplied, here's without. So it's helping, but I think there's still some black baked into the fill channel. Actually, now that I'm thinking about this, I should be able to use the snowflakes as the alpha channel. So if I go choose my snowflakes as the key source, and then I can just fill with a color. Oops. No. Why is that not working? That's what I want. Okay. No, I did want to fill it with the same. This is right. Yeah, now they're looking right. Okay. That's better. Much better, snow. So that's stuff you can do with a Hyperdeck, and this will be a reason to have SDI inputs in the ATEM Mini, so you can run the dual channel graphics generators into the ATEM for better overlays and stuff like that. So that's why I asked for two SDIs in my perfect ATEM Mini, in addition to the HDMIs. We'll see what they do. But now I have to stop that in order to bring the chat back. But that is fun. That is fun. Okay, can I? Yes. Okay, macro worked. Look at that. Let me switch back my inputs to the other cameras. Yeah. All right. Let me scroll down and see what people were saying about the let it snow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Protect the gear. I forgot to cover it up from the snow. There's piles of snow in here. Okay. Let me scroll back up. Oh my gosh, we're at the top of the hour already. We've just been chatting for a long time. Okay, I am going to skip through and see if there's any more I can answer before we wrap this up. Jay asks, do you know if there's any way to stream to the Stream Bridge without the ATEM Mini Pro? Unfortunately, I don't think so. I tried it already a couple of times. It does not work. I don't know what it would take to do it. They're clearly doing some sort of handshake on top of RTMP, and it's really unfortunate. But yeah, it seems like it's just for the ATEM Mini Pro. It's possible somebody might try to reverse engineer the protocol and figure it out and add it to OBS or something, but I wouldn't count on it. Oh yeah, okay. So with the streaming bridge, the streaming bridge ends up being the receiving end. So that's the thing receiving the feed from an ATEM Mini Pro. So you would ship the Pro to the guest, and you keep the streaming bridge in your studio connected with a HDMI or SDI into your switcher. And then the ATEM Mini Pro can stream to the streaming bridge. Now, of course, you're going to need your networking set up right, so port forwarding or VPN. And that's where it starts to get a little bit messy when you're doing it over the internet. Okay, any other quick questions I can get to? Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap this up. I do want to get some, I'm going to try to get some more work done here today. So I'm going to try to install the rest of my lights up there and get things ready for the stream tomorrow, where I will be building that desk. And yeah, so I'm going to try to get some of that work done today. The streaming bridge needs to have a public IP address. No, port forwarding works fine. I do think it's only IPv4. I haven't seen any IPv6 notes. And I don't know. They don't have a Linux version of ATEM software control, unfortunately. What's the advantage of running the mic into the ATEM mic input versus running it into one of the cameras? I don't think there is an advantage necessarily. I guess if your cameras don't have a mic input, I probably should have run this into the camera because it just makes the audio syncing easier. And instead, I have to add the delay in the ATEM. Other than that, I don't think there's any real advantage you get by running it into the ATEM itself. I guess it'd be like a wiring situation, depending on how your wires are run. If you're just using like a little wireless receiver like this, then that's easy enough to move onto the camera if I wanted. But if I was using something different, then it might be easier to run the wire into the ATEM. Okay. Oh, updated studio tour. I will do that. I've been waiting on a couple of things. I've been waiting to finish my lights, waiting to finish my sound panels, and my desk. And this is done. Desk is next tomorrow. I'm probably not going to stream anything when I'm doing my lights because that's going to be mostly me on a ladder and then programming. And the sound panels are not going to be interesting to watch either. So I have a plan for those. Once I get those done, then I can finally do my studio tour. And I've got some clips from the whole process of tearing out the floor and the walls and stuff. So it should be an interesting video when I finally get around to doing it. Nextcloud is awesome as well. So I will say, Nextcloud, I like a lot of things about it. I do not like it for file sharing. It works fine for like average size files, and as soon as you get much bigger than that, it starts getting really, really awkward to work with large files. I ditched it because of that, and I switched over to SyncThing. Nicholas says, I would be interested in an ATEM Mini course. Awesome, thank you. Great idea on the courses. Cool, awesome. I've been thinking about putting that together. There's a lot of really fun, sort of more of the use case focused videos that I want to do on YouTube as well, and I would include them in the course. And then there's a lot of sort of setup and sort of overview stuff that I don't know if it would make a good YouTube video. So that stuff may end up only in the course. We'll see. But if I do this, then a lot of the content in the course will also be on YouTube, and it'll be mostly just that you can support me and show your support by buying the course, even if you could also watch it on YouTube. All right. Oh yeah, Doug Johnson has a lot of Blackmagic gear in a mobile trailer. I need to have him on this show as a guest at some point because, yeah, he does a lot of awesome stuff. Oh, this is a good question. What are the advantages of having a Hyperdeck Studio Mini in tandem with an ATEM Mini? What you saw with the Snow is one advantage, being able to do fun graphics playback. And this is one of the more advanced topics of getting animated titles, of using animated titles and graphics in the ATEM Mini, which is definitely going to be the easiest to do by using a Hyperdeck, because the ATEM Mini can tell the Hyperdeck to start playing at a certain time. So I'm working on creating some graphics, some animated transitions and titles. I'm not very good at motion graphics though, so the things I'm doing are relatively simple, but with more experience in actual motion graphics, you'd be able to do some pretty cool stuff. Anyway, I'm hoping to be able to demonstrate it at the very least. So that you can, for example, animate a lower third appearing beyond just like the ATEM Mini itself can do basic animations like moving things. So let's see, not the downstream key, but the upstream key can like things can fly in from the corner or like expand or whatever. But if you want to actually animate the graphic itself of like having the not just a slide, but like have some part of the image appear or have like a swirl or something, you need that in a video. And then if you have the Hyperdeck, you can play that out from the Hyperdeck. And if you use 2 channels, you can get better transparency with it. So that is that's one of the really cool things you can do with that with the Hyperdeck. Cool. Okay. Thank you for joining. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Zach. Thanks. Okay. So with that, I think we are going to wrap that here. And just a reminder that I will be back tomorrow building a desk, and feel free to join. I'm going to be streaming it on YouTube. I'm not going to be taking a lot of questions during that. I'm going to chat, whatever, but it'll be not this Q&A. So I'm going to be talking about the desk, and you'll be able to see what I'm doing over there and tearing that apart, and eventually moving this contraption over to the desk, which, now that I'm thinking about that, I need to make sure I'm setting up one of my ATEMs to stream in a way that does not require it to be moved when I do the final moving of this gear. That'll be interesting. So, yeah. Join me tomorrow. The link for that stream is already posted on this channel, and I'm going to go right after this and post the rest of my live streams so you can see what I've got coming up as well for the build with this and a couple other things I'm going to be testing out. If you do want to add, if you want to make sure you don't miss the stream, go to aaronpk.tv, and there is a calendar link. And you can just scroll down and it'll show you like the next stream, and right below that there's a calendar link. You can add that to any calendar. You can add it to your phone calendar, you can add it to your computer or Google Calendar, whatever. And that will always include the next scheduled live stream in that. And at the bottom, there's a link to sign up for my email list, where you can then get an email 30 minutes before I go live. So that way, again, you won't miss when I start streaming. So with that, I'm going to wrap that up, and I will see at least some of you tomorrow.